Okay. Let's see if things are going to work this time. Settings. Now let's see if things work a little better. I don't know why this isn't working. See, do I work now? Okay. Now, let's see if things work a little better. Hello! I'm gonna wait for some more people to come in, but before I start streaming, but this is what we're looking at today. We are looking at the Catholic League. Yeah, hey Kurt. We're looking at the Catholic League because that's always a fun time. Never, ever, ever toxic. I'm surprised that no other leftist YouTuber that I've seen has ever done any sort of deep dive on these people because they're awful. Like, just kind of the worst. Alright. When's this working now? So, the Catholic League is a very right-wing Catholic civil rights organization. They're pretty awful. They have their own channel and everything to talk about how oppressed Catholics, specifically white American Catholics, are, and they just write some of the most awful, off the wall things that I've ever seen, and my mom used to absolutely love watching them when I was a kid, and she still loves watching them and reading them. And these are the people who decided that Harry Potter is too close to real witchcraft for me to ever read Harry Potter or to ever celebrate Halloween in any form. Listen, my live streaming skills are bad because this computer's bad. What is a Catholic League? The Catholic League is the nation's biggest Catholic civil rights organization. Founded in 1973 by the late Virgil C. Blooms. I don't remember the SJ. The Catholic League defends the right of Catholics, lay and clergy alike, to participate in American public life without defamation or discrimination. These people are like the ADL, but for Catholics, because they think that Catholics are more oppressed than Jewish people. Motivated by the letter and spirit of the First Amendment, the Catholic League works to safeguard both the religious freedom rights and the free speech of Catholics whenever and wherever they are threatened. The Catholic League is listed in the official Catholic directory and has won the plaudits of many bishops. Is the Catholic League necessary? Absolutely. Harvard professor Arthur Schlesinger Sr. once observed that prejudice against the Catholic Church was the deepest bias in the history of the American people. Mount Holyoke College professor Peter Viereck commented that Catholic baiting is the anti-Semitism of the liberals. And today's brand of anti-Catholicism is more virulent and more pervasive than ever before in Catholic history. While it is true that Catholics as individuals has made progress in securing their rights, the degree of hostility exhibited against the Catholic Church is appalling. Quite simply, Catholic bashing has become a staple of American society. How do I join? Either print the membership form and fill in the membership form and payment information and then mail it back to the Catholic League, or to join online, visit our membership page. We will send you the Catalyst, the League's journal, and let you know of various activities in your area. By joining the Catholic League, you become part of the most influential lay Catholic organization in the country. You are integral to our mission, and our mission is integral to the mission of the Catholic Church. So let's see, membership. How expensive is membership? They want you to pay $30 a year to say that you're oppressed, or $20 a year if you're a student or a senior. My mom has the life membership thing. We have a lot of Catalysts in our house. I might get them out later on in the stream. So this is just an awful grift, first off. So, they're talking about us. Says Cardinal Timothy Dolan, Archbishop of New York, I appreciate Dr. Donahue and the work done by the Catholic League. I look forward to the day when the work done by the Catholic League is no longer necessary. Sadly, as recent events have proven once again, that day still seems far in the future. Says Most Reverend Charles Chaput, OFM Cap, I don't know, the Archbishop of Philadelphia, the Catholic League has the courage to speak up candidly and forcefully for the Church when circumstances call for fighting the good fight. The League should be on every Catholic shortlist of essential organizations to support. Says Cardinal Edwin O'Brien, Pro-Grand Master of the Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre of Jerusalem. Oh, this is going well. I am privileged to support the Catholic League. The work of the Catholic League is invaluable, and its accomplishments over the years are unparalleled. Says Sean Cardinal O'Malley, the Bishop of Boston. Of course, the Catholic League has done much to ensure that the Church's positions are presented clearly and fairly. Too often, those who do not understand the Church or her teachings are the interpreters of the doctrines and the events of the life of the Church. The work of the League is important in the mission of the Church, which must teach the hard truths of the gospel in season and out of season. says Father Benedict Groeschel, we are seeing the most violent attack on the Catholic Church in the media and public life since the days of the Ku Klux Klan. Every serious and committed Catholic needs to know what is going on and what to do about it. I consider membership to the Catholic League the must. Now let's talk about this motherfucker. This motherfucker is Bill Donahue, the guy who created this. He is completely vile and awful, and he writes most of the stuff. William A. Donahue began his teaching career in the 1970s working at St. Lucy's School in Spanish Harlem. Oh, I love where this is going. In 1977, he took a position as a college professor teaching at La Roche College in Pittsburgh. In 1980, Bill was awarded his PhD in sociology from New York University. Bill is the author of 8 books and many articles. His first book, The Politics of the ACLU, was published in 1985. His next book, The New Freedom, Individualism and Collectivism in the Social Lives of Americans, was written while Bill was a Bradley resident scholar at the Heritage Foundation. This is one of the Koch's many investments, but for some reason they don't get a lot of attention because they always quote the Heritage Foundation and the Cato Institute in a ton of their work. Let's see, where was I? It appeared in 1990. Bill's third book, Twilight of Liberty, The Legacy of the ACLU, was published in 1994. Now this is where you're going to notice a pattern. Bill Donahue has it out hardcore for the ACLU. I have no idea why, but they just have it out hard for them. A new afterwork to this book was published in 2001. His fourth book, Secular Sabotage, How Liberals Are Destroying Religion and Culture in America, was published in 2009. Why Catholicism Matters, How Catholic Virtues Can Reshape Society in the 21st Century, was published in 2012 by Image. His latest book, The Catholic Advantage, Why Health, Happiness, and Heaven Await the Faithful, was published by Image in 2015. Bill is the president and CEO of the Catholic League for Religious and Civil Rights, the nation's largest Catholic civil rights organization. The publisher of the Catholic League journal, The Catalyst, he served for 2 decades on the board of directors for the National Association of Scholars. Bill also serves on the board of advisors for the Washington Legal Foundation, the Education Freedom Foundation, which I'm going to guess is something that is some lobbying group of Catholic schools and charter schools, the Society of Catholic Social Scientists, Catholics United for the Faith, Jewish Action Alliance, Ave Maria Institute, the Christian Film and Television Commission, Project Moses, Catholic Citizens of Illinois, the Georgetown Academy, Catholics Come Home, the Save Iraqi Christians, and the Advisory Committee for InsideCatholic.com. In addition, he is a member of the Ancient Order of the Hibernians, Catholic War Veterans, and is an honorary member of the Catholic Social Workers National Association. He also serves on the editorial advisory board of The Family in America, a journal of public policy. Winner of several teaching awards and many awards from the Catholic community, Bill has appeared on thousands of television and radio shows speaking on civil liberties, social issues, and religion. So he's one of those people who tries to take words that liberals have used and manipulate it for conservatives. There are some real gems that I'm going to wait for, like this Halloween one. I think I'll wait for some more people to show up. But this first one is kind of funny. Ben Carson is attacked by atheists. The Catholic League president, Bill Donahue, comments on the reaction by atheist organizations to a prayer given by Ben Carson. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Ben Carson, opened a recent cabinet meeting with a prayer, noting that separation of church and state doesn't mean that they cannot work together to promote godly principles. No one but a maniacal religion hater would find fault with such a conventional observation, but two atheist groups did. The FFRF, an extreme atheist organization that I recently branded as haters, blasted Carson for saying something that he manifestly did not say. So, the FFRF, an extreme atheist organization that I recently branded as haters, blasted Carlson for something he manifestly did not say. Annie Laurie Gaylor of the FFRS accused Carson of saying that religious believers have a monopoly on positive values. Nonsense. What he said is that secular government agencies and religious church bodies can work together for godly purposes. Atheists would not be expected to know what godly purposes means, but it is a term that has been commonly used by civil rights leaders to refer to civil duties. But godly purposes and godly principles, tying it to being positive, kind of isolates atheists from that. It's pretty obviously awful. Rachel Laser is the head of the Americans United for the Separation of Church and State, an organization founded as an anti-Catholic institution after World War II. She alleges that Carson, the Trump administration, want to privilege a narrow set of religious views above all others. Yeah, there is nothing narrow about the religious views the Trump administration is promoting. Our Judeo-Christian tradition is rich and broadly based. But should religion be privileged? Of course! It has been from the beginning of the Republic. The Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia, writing for the majority in a religious accommodation case in 2015, noted that Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights Act does not demand mere neutrality with regard to religious practices. It gives them favored treatment. Well, of course you're listening to Scalia. He sucked. He added, Title VII requires otherwise neutral policies to give way to the need for an accommodation. That settles the matter. To show how wildly out of touch the atheist organizations are, considering the following statement: freedom of religion is essential, and so is access to health care. So should the law address these sometimes competing ends? Current law tries to accommodate both. Who said that? The words were taken from a New York Times editorial published last year. That puts Americans United and FFRF way out in left field, falling off the bleachers, and they have discredited themselves yet again. So, that's the first one. I think that's a good, benchmark without getting into all the homophobic and transphobic shit we're going to get into later about why these people act the way that they act. Now we're going to talk about Elizabeth Warren, who Bill Donahue just loves to shit on. Anyway, Warren declares war on the poor. Oh, Kurt asked what I'm drinking. This is apple cider with 2 shots of pucker, a shot of tequila, a shake of cinnamon, and a drop of maple extract. This is absolutely delicious. I love it. It tastes like walking through a pumpkin patch. If you can't tell, I'm very much a person of the fall spirit. Warren declares war on the poor. Catholic League President Bill Donahue comments on Elizabeth Warren's new education policy. Buckle up, things are about to get really uneducated. When it comes to education, there's no better way to punish the poor than to deny them the same opportunities that the affluent have. This is where we get into the whole capitalist thing, right? Here's the drill. Keep the poor away from charter schools and away from private schools, especially Catholic schools in the inner city. Make sure to defend unions to the hilt, knowing full well they will always put the best interests of teachers and administrators ahead of the best students, and best of all, reward failing schools with more money. So, charter schools suck. I went to a charter high school. It sucked. I went to a Catholic elementary school. That really sucked because it was from a poor area. So all of our funding was from the tuition. Our books were anywhere in the ballpark of 20 to 40 years old. I had a social studies book where the map on the inside cover had the USSR on it and not a full Germany. It's having a Catholic school in a poor area is a bad idea. Plus, if it's a poor family, they're obviously not going to be able to afford to go to a poor high school. So, this is what Elizabeth Warren is doing. In the name of helping the poor, she is declaring war on them. Forget about her intentions. The effect of her plan is to consign black and brown kids to schools that no sane white person would ever choose for his own kids. So, see what they just did there? She calls them poor right here and right here, but then Bill has a little bit of a Freudian slip and says kids of color. And affluent over up here becomes white. because this is all kind of appropriating liberal terms. Warren wants to spend another $800 billion on elementary and secondary education, more than half of which would go to students from poor families. Which is good. You want to put more money into poor schools so that the poor schools can get better books, can get better facilities, can remodel in case there's some asbestos and lead hanging around. That's what you want. But she offers no data to show how effective it is to spend more money on education, and that's because it doesn't exist, except it does. There's so much research about how spending more money in lower income schools increases graduation rates and all that. A researcher at the Cato Institute, of course, because only the Cato Institute and the Heritage Foundation have valid points to make to these people. Andrew J. Coulson studied the results of national assessment tests and correlated academic performance with state funding. He found there is essentially no link between state education spending, which has exploded, and the performance of students at the end of high school, which has generally stagnated or declined. There's definitely some fucker with that. My pop-up used to have a saying, figures lie and liars figure, and I kind of think that's one of those incidents. 1 second. Okay. We're live again. Great. I don't know what happened there. But, if money mattered, then students at the District of Columbia would be at the top of the academic charts. More money is spent per capita on these students than is spent in students in any of the 50 states, yet they are always in the last place. That's because the rich people that's because of redlining. These people don't know what redlining means. I don't know how they can, not know what that means, but whatever. If more money equals better academic achievement were true, states like New Hampshire and the Dakotas would be at the bottom, yet they're always near the top, notwithstanding meager funding per capita. Similarly, Alaska has one of the most well-funded school systems, yet ranks near the bottom in academic achievement. These people don't understand anything. God. Warren hates that one public school initiative that works, namely charter schools. She's now boasting that she will end more federal money for charter schools and stop for-profit charters altogether. When confronted with evidence that charter schools in her home state of Massachusetts worked well, she did not deny it, but data mean nothing to ideologues. Yeah, you fucking motherfucker. I've been reading your shit. She also wants to make it easier for teachers to unionize. Good. Thus ensuring the poor will stay where they are. What is going on in Chicago? God! Is a textbook example. The public school establishment is opposed to every school choice program, yet the lack of competition, which works well in every other segment of the economy, effectively stops the poor from becoming upwardly mobile. Listen, I'm not even a big John Oliver fan, but watch his shit on charter schools. Someone needs to ask Warren why she wants to deny school choice to parents who live in D.C. when it is clear that the initiative works. For instance, D.C. Opportunity Scholarship Program, which helps students from poor families to attend private schools, experienced a 21 percentage point increase in graduation rates. I taught in Catholic school in Spanish Harlem and saw firsthand how well poor Puerto Rican and African American students could do when presented with structure in a curricular focused on basic educational skills. There was no money for frills, no room for experimental programs, and no excessive administration costs. But there was plenty of homework and plenty of discipline in the classroom. I'm guessing that he's saying that he beat up a bunch of Puerto Rican and black kids in the classroom with a ruler. Just a suspicion. These students did well not because of money, but because of tried and true academics were the rule. With fully funded vouchers, parents of all income levels could send their children and the accompanying financial support to the schools of their choice. So true. This is what Elizabeth Warren said in 2003. She needs to explain what changed, what data made her the enemy of school choice. Absent empirical evidence, we are left with the impression that she is prepared to keep the poor in their place, just so she can win the support of teachers' unions. Jesus Christ, he really hates unions. Okay. So, do you want the story on why the spike in youth suicide? Do you want the mandatory Halloween outrage piece? Do you want David Spade making a bad joke and then Bill Donahue absolutely freaking out over it? Or do you want the reaction to people being nice to gay people? Because these are all looking kind of fun. I'm pausing because it takes like forever to get to the whole thing, so. Fuck it, we'll do the why the spike in youth suicide. Catholic League President Bill Donahue comments on the rise in youth suicide. I'm sure this will go great. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports that young people aged 10 to 17. Oh. Actually, Chris said that they want the Democratic candidates won. There's such a lag that I'm sorry. Catholic League President Bill Donahue comments on what Democratic candidates for the president had to say about religious liberty in the October 10th televised debate. There was a time, not long ago, when people of faith felt equally at home with the Republican and Democratic parties. The former was home to most Protestants, and the latter was home to most Catholics and Jews. The big change came in the early 70s when Catholics, especially white Catholics, moved away from the Democratic Party. Some became Republicans, while others sided with independents. Well, gee, it's almost like white people just made this massive shift to the Republicans in the 1970s. Could something have happened in 1965 and 1964 that would impact that? I mean, something that a president said or signed? Gee, I don't know. Leave your answers in the comments, folks. An even bigger change occurred more recently, and it was full on display during the debate. To be specific, it is clear that none of the Democratic candidates wants to be tagged as religion-friendly. Okay. Who would a religious-friendly person be? A homophobe? There are many criteria, but among the most central attributes would be someone who supports traditional religious exemptions in law. Here we go. Religious exemptions have existed since the founding, and up until recently they have been considered uncontroversial, but things have changed. The free exercise of religion has been predicated on the presumptive right of religious institutions to be exempt from laws that violate their tenets. The burden is on the government to show why an exemption should not be granted. That burden does not come lightly, but from the presidential debate, one would never know this. All of the candidates incline against religious exemptions, some more than others, making them the least religion-friendly candidates for president in American history. Julian Castro is so opposed to religious exemptions that he said that if he is elected, his first order of business on January 20th, 2021 would be to roll back religious exemptions that collide with the rights of gay and trans people. He did not give one example of where he would honor the First Amendment right to free exercise of religion over the nowhere mentioned constitutional rights of homosexuals and transgender persons. Get ready for him to keep saying homosexuals because, motherfucker. Joe Biden. But I think it is really cute that Julian Castro thinks that he has any sort of chance in this race. I mean, it's adorable. Joe Biden thought he was flashing his tolerant Catholic credentials when he boasted that Ireland was the first nation to change its constitution to allow people of the same sex to marry. He failed to note the triumph of radical secularism in Ireland. P.D. Moran said that it's still like 3... Anyway, he's now lying about Pence so he can claim victim status. Not only has Pence never once questioned Buttigieg's relationship with God, he unequivocally said, "If I saw a restaurant owner refuse to serve to a gay couple, I wouldn't eat there anymore." Maybe because he spent so long being attacked for his homophobia that it's just some sort of quick little thing. Not only has Pence never once questioned Elizabeth Warren told the audience how she believes in the preciousness of each and every life. Uh-oh. Things are about to get really ugly. This is not true. If it was true, then why did she vote against a law that would make it a federal crime for a doctor to not attend to victims born alive due to a botched abortion? Her failure to do so allows infanticide to exist with impunity. When Cory Booker was asked if churches should lose their tax-exempt status if they don't support the gay rights agenda, he did not commit himself. He was clearly not in the religion-friendly camp. None of these... Beto O'Rourke did commit himself. He said that if he is president, there would be no tax break for any institution that did not ascribe to the gay rights agenda. None of the candidates was asked why religious exemptions even exist or which ones they would keep. There are some voices in the Democratic Party that freely admit how dangerously secular the party has grown. Their efforts to bring sanity to the party is commendable, but it is quite clear they have failed. Jesus Christ. I do think that, let me see.